All right, good morning, sixth graders. It is Thursday, and I forgot to do yesterday's read aloud, so I apologize for that. However, we are on chapter 17, and this is all we have left. That's it. I feel like we will be able to finish this book this year, but hopefully you're hopping on to check. Anyway, let's get started. Chapter 17, we shop for waterbeds. It was Annabeth's idea. She loaded us into the back of a Vegas taxi as if we actually had the money, and she told the driver, "Los Angeles, please." The cabbie chewed his cigar and he sized us up. "That's 300 miles. For that, you gotta pay up front." "You accept casino debit cards?" Annabeth said. He shrugged. "Some of them, same as credit cards. I gotta swipe them though first." Annabeth handed him her green Lotus Cash card, and he looked at it skeptically. "Swipe it," Annabeth invited, and he did. His meter machine started rattling, lights flashed, and finally an infinity symbol came up next to the dollar sign. The cigar fell out of the driver's mouth. He looked back at us with his eyes wide and said, "Where to in Los Angeles, ma'am? Your Highness?" "The Santa Monica Pier." Annabeth sat up a little straighter. I could tell that she liked the "Your Highness" part. "Get us there fast, and you can keep the change." Maybe she shouldn't have told him that. The cab's speedometer never dipped below 95 miles an hour the whole way through the Mojave Desert. On the road, we had plenty of time to talk. I told Annabeth and Grover all about my latest dream, but the details just kept getting sketchier the more I tried to remember them. The Lotus Casino seemed to have short-circuited my memory somehow. I couldn't recall what the invisible servant's voice had sounded like, though I was sure it was somebody I knew. The servant had called the monster in the pit something other than "my lord," some special name or title of some sort. "The silent one," Annabeth suggested. "The rich one? Both of those are nicknames for Hades." "Maybe," I said, though neither sounded quite right to me. "That throne room sounds like Hades," Grover said. "That's the way it's usually described." I shook my head. Something's wrong. The throne room wasn't the main part of this dream. And that voice from the pit, I don't know. It didn't seem like a god's voice. Annabeth's eyes widened. "What?" I asked. "Oh, nothing. No, it has to be Hades. Maybe he sent this thief, this invisible person, to get the master bolt, and then something went wrong. But like what?" I don't know," she said. "But if he stole Zeus's symbol of power from Olympus and the gods were hunting him, I mean, a lot of things could go wrong. So this thief had to hide the bolt, or else he lost it somehow. Anyway, he failed to bring it to Hades. That's what the voice said in your dream, right? The guy failed. That would explain why the Furies were searching for it when they came after us on the bus. Maybe they thought that we had retrieved the bolt." I wasn't sure what was wrong with her, but she looked very pale. "But if I'd already retrieved the bolt," I said, "why would I be traveling to the underworld?" "To threaten Hades," Grover suggested. "To bribe or blackmail him, maybe, into getting your mom back." I whistled. "You have evil thoughts for a goat. Why, thank you. But the thing in the pit said that it was waiting for 2 items," I said. "If the master bolt is one, then what's the other?" Grover shook his head, clearly mystified. Annabeth was looking at me as if she knew my next question, and she was silently willing me not to ask it. "You have an idea what might be in that pit, don't you?" I asked her. "I mean, if it isn't Hades?" "Percy, let's not talk about it, because if it isn't Hades, no, it has to be Hades." Wasteland rolled by. We passed a sign that said, "California State Line, 12 miles. I got the feeling I was missing one simple, critical piece of information. It was like when I stared at a common word that I should know, but I just couldn't make sense of it because 1 or 2 of the letters were just floating around. The more I thought about my quest, the more I was sure that confronting Hades was not the real answer. There was something else going on, something even more dangerous. The problem was, we were hurtling toward the underworld at 95 miles an hour, betting that Hades did have the master bolt. If we got there and found out we were wrong, we wouldn't even have time to correct ourselves. The solstice deadline would pass and war would begin." "The answer is in the underworld," Annabeth assured me. "You saw spirits of the dead, Percy. There's only one place that could be. We're doing the right thing." She tried to boost our morale by suggesting clever strategies for getting into the land of the dead, but my heart just wasn't in it. There was just too many unknown factors. It was like cramming for a test without knowing the subject. And believe me, I had done that lots of times. The cab sped west. Every gust of wind through the Death Valley sounded like a spirit of the dead to me. Every time the brakes hissed or an engine or an 18-wheeler okay, let me try again. Every time the brakes hissed on an 18-wheeler, it reminded me of Agnita's reptilian voice. At sunset, though, the taxi dropped us off at the beach in Santa Monica, and it looked exactly the way the LA beaches do in the movies, only it smelled way worse. There were carnival rides lining the pier, palm trees lining the sidewalks, homeless guys sleeping in the sand dunes, and surfer dudes waiting for the perfect wave. Grover, Annabeth, and I walked down to the edge of the surf. "What now?" Annabeth asked. The Pacific was turning gold in the setting sun, and I thought about how long it had been since I stood on the beach at Montauk, on the opposite side of the country, looking out at a different sea. How could there be a God who could control all of that? What did my science teacher used to say? 2/3 of the Earth's surface was covered in water? How could I be the son of someone that powerful? And then I stepped into the surf. "Percy," Annabeth said, "what are you doing?" I kept walking all the way up to my waist and then my chest. She called after me, "You know how polluted and disgusting that water is? There's all kinds of toxic..." And that's when my head went underwater. I held my breath at first. It's difficult to intentionally inhale water. But finally I couldn't stand it anymore. I gasped. And sure enough, I could breathe normally, underwater. I walked down to the shoals. I couldn't have been able to see through the murk, but somehow I could tell where everything was. I could sense the rolling texture of the bottom. I could make out sand dollar colonies dotting around on the sandbars. I could even see the currents, warm ones and cold ones swirling together. I felt something rub against my leg, and I looked down and almost shot out of the water like a ballistic missile. Sliding along beside me was a 5-foot-long mako shark. But the thing was, it wasn't there to attack. It was nuzzling me. It was heeling like a dog. Tentatively, I touched its dorsal fin, and it bucked a little bit, as if inviting me to hold on tighter. So I grabbed the fin with both hands, and it took off, pulling me along. The shark carried me down and into the darkness. It deposited me at the edge of an ocean proper, where the sandbank dropped off into a huge chasm. It was like standing on the rim of a Grand Canyon at midnight, not being able to see much, but knowing that the void was right there. The surface shimmered maybe 150 feet above, and I knew I should have been crushed by the pressure. Then again, I shouldn't have been able to breathe in the first place. I wondered if there was a limit to how deep I could go, if I could sink straight to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Okay, 7 minutes, that's a good place to stop, I think. We'll catch back up on Monday and finish chapter 17. That's it. I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.